There's a few sayings that I want to tie together to talk about something that I posted about recently, the David Justice and Halle Berry situation. There's a saying that you can be the whole package and be at the wrong address. There's also a saying that even a fool is thought to be wise when he's silent, but then if he opens his mouth, he removes all doubt. And there's another saying that by your words, you'll be justified, and by your words, you'll be condemned. So I want to tie all of three of these to the David Justice and Halle Berry situation. Recently, David Justice gave an interview and he said that he divorced Halle Berry because she didn't cook and clean. Now, you would think that if you're giving an interview about a divorce, it would be a recent one, but this happened 30 years ago and he's remarried. And it seems that she is still very much in his mind because he's bringing this up and it's 30 years ago. But also, there's so many things that came to my mind about this situation. One is a story that probably everybody has heard. It's a story about a boy who found a violin at a garage sale and he bought it for a few dollars, and he went home to his grandfather and he asked his grandfather, hey, do you think I got a good deal on this violin? How much do you think it's worth? Because I think it's worth more than what I paid for it. And the grandfather said, well, take it to a pawn shop, see how much they give you. And then he went to the pawn shop and they said, oh, I'll give you $30 for it. And that was more than the boy paid. So he was like, oh man, okay, wow. And he was like, well, wait. The grandfather's like, wait. Go take it to a music teacher and see what they say about it. And the boy went to the music teacher and the music teacher said, no, I think that comes from a certain era. I think it's actually, kind of rare, but I don't know very much. And of course, I really couldn't buy it for very much because, we don't have that kind of thing in our budget, but I would give you $100 for it. And the boy was like, oh, wow. Okay, wow. It just went up, man, 3 times more than, what the pawn shop guys said. Okay. Ooh. And then, the music teacher said, you might want to go to a music store that sells, all kind of different instruments and see what they say. Maybe they might be able to point you in, another direction. And so the kid took the violin to a music store, and the person at the music store happened to have been there for a while. It wasn't like a newbie or whatever. And he was like, I do think that this music teacher is right. I think that it does come from a different era. It seems like there's some etchings on there that seem to signify who made it, but I don't know enough about the history of violins to tell you. I mean, if you wanted to, I think it's a curio piece. I think it might attract some collectors here. I might want to put it on my website and see what I can get for it, because there might be somebody looking for, this type of instrument, because like I said, it does seem to be an antique and it seems to be kind of well cared for. And I'll offer you $300 for it. And the kid was like, wow, oh my gosh, I went from $30 to $100 to $300. And he went back to his grandfather. The music store offered me $300. He said, well, you know what? I think you should take it to the auction house and see if they are willing to offer you $300. It might be worth a lot more than we thought. And so this young man took the violin to an auction house, and the auctioneer said, oh, wow, yeah, this is from a different era. It was played by some famous people. I don't even know how you got your hands on it. It's in good condition. I can still see some of the etchings from, the person who made it and the way they signed their signature. And there's not very many of these in existence anymore. And, so we could put this at auction, but you probably would be looking at, maybe $3 million or more. So it shows you, because this is, based on a true concept, right? It shows you that the audience and their viewpoint, their mindset, their knowledge of what they're looking at can greatly impact the value that something has in their eyes. And I think that that is very much the case with this David Justice Halle Berry situation, because David Justice is looking at her as completely basically worthless as a wife, if he was even telling the truth. Because sometimes people just say things to humble people or try to make them look bad, and they're not even really being honest with themselves or with the world. But let's just say he was telling the truth. And he devalued her, or tried to devalue her, by putting some domestic slight on her skills, right? Or lack thereof. Not knowing that there are people who value her for her Academy Award. There are people who value her for strides that she's taken, and stances that she's taken, and things that she's said, for women and women's rights and women's empowerment. There are people who look up to her for her fitness and her health and the way that she's aged with grace. And there could be so many things, that people could look at and say, wow, this is why I think she is an amazing person or an amazing woman. But he's looking at cooking and cleaning. And so it also shows you that just because someone marries you doesn't mean they value you. And there could be people who have never married you but value a whole lot more than the person that is your spouse. So I think that when we look at like those statements that I started off with, he opened his mouth and showed his foolishness, showed his lack of vision. All right. And his words really did condemn him, because we see the shallowness, we see the misogyny, we see the attempt to humiliate and disrespect and downgrade this woman who's not doing anything to him. She's gone on with her life. So he's somehow bitter and resentful, and still trying to lash out 30 years later. Wow. And then, that idea of by your fruits you'll know them, right? So all of these ideas coming to kind of connect and say that, hey, listen to people. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. That's what Maya Angelou said. And I'm sure that he showed his disrespect. Or I would imagine that he did. And that's probably the reason why they're not married, and not the cooking and cleaning. And again, we have to get beyond these shallow boxes that people want to put us in, where if you don't do a few things that they feel a woman should do, you're worthless. That is ridiculous, and it's misogynistic, and it's outdated. May you walk in Zenergy.